phone's recording.
Or like that. Sure.
That works.
You're probably not even gonna get the board all in there or something. Oh, your baby's crying or?
It's talking.
Oh, it was talk. The baby's talk?
Show him.
Boy, you made it so excited it talked. Oh, I'm so glad we have babies in class. So, the thing we're going to talk about, and we're going to talk about it down here because it was really important about the New Deal. So this is like a continuation, but we're not going to get to the second New Deal like it says right here because of shortened class periods. So we're going to talk about the rest of the New Deal that we didn't get to the last lecture. And we're going to start out with the NIRA, the National Industrial Recovery Act. The National Industrial Recovery Act, and I apologize, but there is so many acronyms, and almost every one of these acronyms is probably going to be on the test, so good luck. That's what I'm going to say. So the National Industrial Recovery Act set codes of fair practices for industries. It also guaranteed the workers' right to organize in unions, and it also set up what is known as the NRA, the National Recovery Administration, which was set up to stop the trend of wage cuts, falling prices, and layoffs. Wage cuts, falling prices, and layoffs. I used a different color, yes. So, the next thing was the HOLC, the Homeowners Loan Corporation. What we want to do here with these guys was stop foreclosures. So we'd give new loans to homeowners who faced foreclosures because they could not make their loan payment because they didn't have enough money. And so then they could keep their house but have lower interest rates and a better payment, and they could make the payment and not lose their house. We kind of had something before that was similar to this, but it was for farmers losing their land. And that was by Hoover. Obviously it didn't really work, so they had to come back and do the HOLC. Now, Roosevelt funded his New Deal with deficit spending. What does that mean? It's what Americans do. Spend more than the money you actually have. So you make $40,000 a year, but you bought like $60,000 worth of stuff. How do you do that? Credit cards and loans and, man, Americans. So the nation is, maybe it only brings in like $3 million, but it costs $7 million to run the nation. That's deficit spending. And what does that create? A national debt. And what is our national debt today? Trillions. Trillions. It's like, I don't know if it's 18 or something trillion.
50.
I don't know. Is it 50 trillion?
70.
Maybe you
90.
should put your baby down and look it up.
120.
It's in trillions. I thought it was like 22 trillion, but I could be wrong. But you definitely could look up the national debt, and there's like a clock. It looks like a clock, but it's actually money, and it's like rolling all the time because of interest, right?
It's always good.
It's always going.
22 trillion.
I was right, 22 trillion. I was right, yes. Finally, right.
You should get the 22 trillion for definite right.
The funny thing is, I can hardly imagine having $1 million.
Yeah, I don't
If you have $1 million, I think I can live off $1 million. I just put it in the bank, and I'll live off my $40,000 interest a year.
You invest it.
What if I lose it?
You invest it.
What if I lose some of it?
So it's what you do when you win $1 million. Minus.
So if I win $1 million, this is what happened. You win $1 million and you have to pay like 800,000 in taxes. So I take my 200,000 and
Buy a nice house.
pay off
Buy a
something
nice
like
house.
that.
Put 70% of it in the stock market. Put most of the rest in for like college for your
Right.
children.
Pay off the college for my kids.
And then boom, you save that 3% and you can play around with that.
Yeah, I should do that. Win the lottery. I'm gonna try that.
But the majority in the stock market.
Yeah.
But like hire someone to do it for you.
So deficit spending
So
and the different parties in our country believe in different ways to get the deficit spending down, right? Republicans believe they cut stuff to decrease the spending, and Democrats believe they do something different. I don't know exactly what Democrats believe. There's more programs in the Democratic Party that they want to fund and different things. So I don't know if anything has really helped in the last number of years to decrease this national debt. But I'll let him talk about that next year, and I don't have to. Also, that is why I want you to answer that survey. That was his survey, and he wants you to tell him if you are interested in AP Gov, because I was obviously bragging on your class and saying there's a lot of smart kids in this class, and he was thinking, oh, if there's a lot of people that want to take AP Gov, then I'll just have 2 classes of AP Gov. So if you're interested in AP Gov, then you click your survey, and if you're not interested, click no, and you just take PAD, Problems in American Democracy. I don't know exactly what the difference is. AP has a little bit more. I don't know if it's more either. I don't know. Should have more harder, a little bit harder stuff. But I'm not saying that it does. Now, one of the things when FDR became president, one of the problems he has is he has all these New Deal programs, but the court was filled with conservatives. So his new programs were scrutinized very heavily, and he was criticized for deficit spending. And then the court system tore apart a couple of things. One, they called the AAA and the NIRA unconstitutional. And of course, then I'm like, why? So you got to do more research as a teacher, because students really need to know, why are these unconstitutional? Okay. Well, the AAA had a tax on the processors. They taxed the processors, and then they gave the tax back to the farmers. And the courts were like, that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. And if I was a farmer, I'm like, what? You can do that? Sure. Give me money. But they found that unconstitutional. So it was struck down by the court system. Now, the NIRA, the National Industrial Recovery Act, again, set codes for fair practices for industries. That's great. Well, who deals with industries within a state? The federal or state? The state. And the federal should do with interstate trade from one state to the next state. So basically, the court system came in and said, you cannot govern businesses and trade within a state. You can't do that. That's separation of power. The state has the right to say these, but not the federal government. So here's my question again, and this is so who should say what American students should learn? The federal or the state? It actually should be the state, because the state funds all the schools. And actually, local school boards should tell you what you should be learning and what you shouldn't be learning. But then we have like No Child Left Behind, or what?
States are smarter than other states, and I'm going ahead.
And then the federal government wants to regulate all this.
We can't have that.
And it's kind of that separation of power deal where, you know, in the Constitution and in our government, it says that the local school board says, you guys in Lewistown, Montana should be learning this. And the state can give us regulations, but the federal government shouldn't, because they don't give us hardly any money. I think they give us about like 9% of our budget for our schools. So why are they telling us what we should learn and what we shouldn't learn, right? Kind of crazy. I'm gonna stop there. Oh, no, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna continue here tomorrow about why Roosevelt, he got really mad, and remember, we're starting with unconstitutional things. Now, if you have something on classroom to finish up, you need to do that because it needs to be done and turned in. Do you guys want me to